Hi, my name's Miguel, back with another Naruto vlog. Today we are doing volume 24, Unorthodox. If I sound slightly ticked off, it's because I am. I have to record this again because the original video file got corrupted. Yeah, and to top things off, this volume concludes a battle that took way too long and was too drawn out. So for those of you who watched volume 23, I voiced my opinion that nothing really happens in the volume, and you know, at this point I'm starting to feel the weight. Again, like, it felt like it was drawn out, partly I think because I put off the video for too long. This is another video I've been putting off doing, but this time because, like, I didn't want to talk about it. I kind of got sick of it. When I first read the volume, I was like, oh my gosh, this battle is taking way too long, it's too drawn out. By the way, if you hear my dog barking, that's because he is, and he will not stop, so I'm not even going to try. I don't want to bother. So yeah, what happens in this volume? This is the conclusion of the battle with the Sound Ninja that has gone on for so long now. We have, of course, Shikamaru versus Tayuya, we have Kiba and Akamaru versus Sakon and Ukon, and we have Naruto versus Kimimaru. Pardon me. And in each of these situations, somebody comes in to help out. First, we get Rock Lee, and it's pretty great to see. It's very satisfying to see that he has successfully gone through the surgery. That Tsunade was able to heal him. He's back to his full strength. But of course, he has to immediately, as soon as he's back to his full strength, he feels the need to help out the others and help bring Sasuke back. So that's what he does, and he pops up and he gives Naruto time to go after Sasuke, who has, by the way, escaped from his little barrel thing. So Naruto is going after Sasuke, and that leaves Rock Lee to face Kimimaru. That's kind of the only thing Rock Lee does. You know, ultimately, despite his best efforts, he unleashes the Lotus. He opens the first gate. We saw him open a bunch of gates in his fight with Gaara, which really did a number on his body. So he's being really careful about that. That's interesting. But other than that, he doesn't do much. He ends up not being too much of a threat to Kimimaru, and actually it ends up being Gaara. By the way, the Sand Ninja appear to help out. It ends up being Gaara to help save Rock Lee from, from being defeated by Kimimaru. And then we do see another thing interesting. I feel like every time we see Rock Lee, we see him gain a new power. Like, we saw Rock Lee the first time, we learned that he was very good at taijutsu, not so great at the ninjutsu thing. In his battle with in the Chunin exams, we saw him utilize the Lotus technique in order to protect Sakura against Gaara. He unleashed all the gates. Here he accidentally brings Tsunade's private potion instead of his medicine for his injuries. And what's interesting about this is, we cut back to Might Guy, and when he realizes that Rock Lee accidentally took Tsunade's private potion, he's like, last time something like that happened, he tore apart a restaurant. So we see Rock Lee enter this sort of a drunk master, drunken fist sort of thing, in which he becomes much more of a threat. The problem with this is, despite the fact that Might Guy mentions, the last time this happened, he destroyed a restaurant, that gives us some context into how powerful he is when he's in this drunken fist mode. We don't see it make much of a difference. Kimimaru ends up not being too, he's hurt. It does something, but it doesn't do that much. And I'm really hoping that we get to see Rock Lee in this position again, so that we can really get a feel for just how powerful. I want the author to show that Rock Lee is really, really powerful whenever he can devastate things with the effects of the private potion. Which is, one big gripe that I had with the volume and with Rock Lee's appearance. It just feels like, Rock Lee's back. Rock Lee has, healed from his injuries, but he's not doing much. I want him to come back in a blaze of glory, saving the day, kicking all sorts of butt, right off the bat. I feel like this, I get that he's still recovering from his injuries, he still needs to, warm back up into things, but I don't feel like this was the best route for him to go. It feels very anticlimactic, his appearance and his injuries being healed. So, yeah, Rock Lee got the short end of his stick in this volume. I'm sorry. Didn't get the short end of the stick. The Sand Ninja from Sunogakure, and because the Kazekage turned out to be Orochimaru in disguise, Konohagakure has basically mended the relationship with Sunogakure. Of course, things aren't perfect. We've still got the Jonin going out and, making peace with all the nations, making sure that, there isn't much retaliation against Konohagakure for this big battle. There isn't anyone trying to take advantage of the fact that a lot of ninja were killed. So, of course, Sunogakure was one of the people that they reconciled with. I do kind of feel like it was a little too easy, but, water under the bridge. We don't get a lot of details about the diplomacy between Konohagakure and Sunogakure, so maybe this is their Sunogakure's way of helping to mend their relationship by sending the Sand Ninja out to help Naruto, Shikamaru, and Kiba to fend off the Sound Ninja. And I like the pairings here. This is one thing I really like. They very cleverly pair up the Sand Ninja with the Konohagakure people, the ninja that they have there, the Leaf Ninja, basically. I mentioned Gaara and Rock Lee. Gaara comes in to help Rock Lee fend off Kimimaro. It's interesting because, they've fought before. Rock Lee actually injured himself trying to defeat Gaara, and, they're both very, very skilled ninja in their own right. But they're probably, the least compatible, but in my opinion, but, it's still pretty compatible. It's still a pretty nice pairing, for that matter. So, Gaara faces Kimimaro. Kimimaro at this point is in his second state, which is bones protruding from his body, and he mentions the amount of bones that I have changes. I don't have a fixed number of bones. That's my that's my special power. We also see a little bit of how Kimimaro gets his power. Apparently, it's passed down from his clan, but his entire clan was wiped out, and he was the sole survivor. He was a little kid when Orochimaru brought him in to basically brainwash him. And we do see a little bit of interesting back and forth between Gaara and Kimimaro, in which Kimimaro mentions, "I am Orochimaru's arm, I am his servant, I am basically how he's going to take over, and I'm very proud of that." And Gaara looks at him and he's like, "Ooh, I pity you, man. You really have been brainwashed." Because we remember that Gaara has been under Orochimaru's influence before. Not only that, but he still has that beast inside of him, right? And he is fallen prey to the to the influence of that beast. So it's interesting how Gaara reveals the things that he has learned from being ordered by Orochimaru, by being ordered by falling under the control of the beast, right? So Gaara fights Kimimaro, and there are multiple. Gaara exhibits several times. He tries to crush Kimimaro with his sand. He does so by doing the sand coffin sort of thing, which he tries to crush him and surround him in sand and then crush him that way. And Kimimaro escapes. He tries to completely bury him under 20 feet of sand and then just crush him that way. Kimimaro actually summons a forest of bones to try and kill them. And Kimimaro actually goes out in a very kind of anticlimactic way, honestly. He mentions that he has an illness. His time in this earth is limited, and that's Kabuto's experiments have kind of been helping keep him alive, I'm assuming. So when he finally pops out of one of the bones in the forest, and he he tries to attack Gaara and Rock Lee by surprise, he ends up dying mid-attack, and it's kind of anticlimactic. I get it. His time on this earth is limited. Good grief, my dog is barking so loud. I don't know if you can hear that. But his time on this earth is limited. I get that. But, he could have gone off better, in my opinion. Because he had such a cool power. It was creepy and it was gross. And that's what made it good. Because, I really felt ugh, every time he did the bone thing. But, he just died mid-attack from his illness. He succumbed to his illness, and it's kind of anticlimactic in my opinion. So that gives Gaara and Rock Lee some time to rest. Meanwhile, Kankuro actually goes over to help Kiba, and I think this is clever because I mentioned before, Kiba and Akamaru are basically like a tag team. Akamaru's not really the extension of Kiba. They're basically partners. They're basically, they're inseparable. Similarly, Sakon and Ukon are, literally inseparable sometimes, but they are separable. Like, they're one person, but they also fight as two people, mainly as a unit. The fact that Kankuro comes in with his puppet, and we actually get introduced to a new puppet, Ant, as opposed to Crow. I suppose there's a difference between the two. Basically, Kankuro and his puppet, they work similarly. The puppet can be an extension of Kankuro, or it can work basically its own thing. So, that was very clever. Kankuro finishes off Sakon and Ukon by doing sort of a Iron Maiden trap thing. We do see their blood, flowing from out of the Iron Maiden, so we do know. We're assuming that they're dead. They've been defeated. End of story. Meanwhile, Temari and Shikamaru go up against Tayuya. Yes, I said that right. Tayuya. And this is another very clever thing, because Temari and Shikamaru at the offset, they're completely different. Their approaches are completely different. But in this case, Shikamaru's strategy-based approach is not effective in taking down Tayuya, because Tayuya's focus on sound as her genjutsu, I believe it's called. It's been a while. It makes it so that the moment Shikamaru is able to pinpoint her position, he is already under the influence of Tayuya. So he has to, while he's trying to figure out a strategy, how do I figure out where she is without falling under her spell, or being subjected to her sound? Temari comes in and she's like, I know a way. Let's just brute force our way through it. Temari is very brute force. She's Shikamaru mentioned subtle as a rhino, but, scarier than my mom, but Temari comes in, she basically just destroys the entire forest, and in the process, she takes out Tayuya. It's a very interesting and a very brute force method, but it works, and it's not something that Shikamaru would have tried, because he's very focused on thinking out other strategies. And of course, his shadow possessions thing, it's not a brute force thing. He has to really think through how he's going to use his shadow to possess his opponent. And that requires a lot of thinking and a lot of strategizing, and it requires a lot of subtlety. Temari's wind scythe thing doesn't really require subtlety. All she has to do is blow it out, and it does the damage. It does the work. And it works, and it's interesting to see how sometimes Shikamaru's approach to things, despite being very clever, despite being very strategic, doesn't always work, and that's very, very interesting. Those are the good things about the battles. The battle, I didn't completely hate the battles. I thought, again, they were good ways to showcase the abilities that these characters have, and it's a good way to showcase just how good they are, and, just how effective they can be, and the creative ways that they're implemented. That said, my big problem with this battle in particular, we went through Choji and Jiroba, we went through Neji and Kidomaru. Those were two individual battles that we saw before we moved on to the rest of the group, right? So when we saw Choji and Jiroba, it was an isolated battle. We didn't cut back to the others. We cut back to the others, but in very short segments. That was very focused on Choji's character, on his past, on his insecurities, and the things that he does in this battle that tie into that past, that tie into his experiences. Similarly, Neji has grown from his experiences with Naruto, and he showcases that in his battle with Kidomaru. Right? So we get it's very focused on that battle with Neji, and it's very focused on Neji's experiences. It's very focused on how Neji has grown. So that focus in each of those battles is placed because we focus very solely on those battles. These three battles happened at the same time. We kept cutting in between them, and that's what made it drag on. That's what made Volume 23 such nothing happened basically in Volume 23. That's why it was very like such a oh my gosh, I'm so glad it's done feeling in this volume. You know, I didn't dislike it. I didn't hate it. I just wish that it was, you know, that we had more focus placed on one particular character. You know, let's place focus on Kiba and Akamaru before we move on to Shikamaru and Tayuya, right? And then after that, we move on to Naruto and, you know, and Rock Lee and Gaara and Kimimaro. You know, that way it would be more focused. That way we can still have all the battles. I understand it might still be drawn out, but at the very least we can have at the very least it won't feel so drawn out. It won't feel like nothing's happening because we are seeing, we are experiencing the focus placed on each of these characters. I feel like that was a major drawback in this battle. That said, I'm really looking forward to the next volume. By the way, this book's done. Out you go. We are moving on. Oh my gosh, I have completely knocked over my entire thing. But anyway, we are moving on to this volume, and judging by the cover alone, I'm sure things are gonna go down really quickly. So we got Naruto versus Sasuke. That's coming up. That's something to be really excited about. This is something we have waited volumes for. I know I've waited volumes for it. This is really, really exciting. So yeah, I will see you for volume 25. Thank you so much for watching. If you like it, subscribe. I put out a video very often. I try to do it daily, but sometimes I can't do it because like I don't really do this. You know, I don't really make videos as a living. But yeah, if you liked it, please check it out. There's more to come. And definitely also check out my Pokemon Adventures Revisited series, which is currently ongoing. I've promoted it to, you know, every other day. Meanwhile, the days that I don't do Pokemon Adventures, I do Naruto. Pokemon Adventures basically follows the plot of the games, very different from the anime. And I already read it, but I'm revisiting it as an adult to see how it holds up now that I have this adult mentality, now that I basically have grown up, so I'm trying to see how well it holds up. Yeah, so, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.